What's going on, guys? Killer6 back with my flak build for Borderlands 3, and this is my gamma flak. A lot of you guys probably watched the playthrough in which I went 9 days on this flak, building him up and learning how to play flak, and learning a couple of really cool tricks that I'm going to teach you guys about flak as well along the way. So up first, let's go ahead and kill a few things. I'm just going to kind of go over some of the basics of the build, and then we'll get into the more specific things here in just a moment. So up first, know that as long as you have the Red Fang class mod, you can maximize survivability big time on flak. And this is true takedown on the Malawan takedown, just in case you're wondering. A couple things to note first and foremost is you want to be doing what we call, I guess we'd call it element stacking. So what that means is, for example, on action skill in, I've got a bonus incendiary damage with my shield, and on action skill end, I have shock damage on my grenade. Now both of these are for 10 seconds. In addition to that, I've got while gamma burst is up, I get radiation damage. And then down here, I've got shock damage and then radiation damage while gamma's up. And then here I've got corrosive, and then next two mags on action skill end get bonus shock damage. Now, the reason I like to use the action skill end anointments on flak is because even though gamma burst is something that we're going to like use and keep it going for a long time, so you're probably thinking, well, that doesn't really work well with action skill end if you're going to keep that going a lot. Well, there's a trick. This gun right here, this Holistic the Butcher, this one grants an extra charge of rack attack, and even though we're not doing rack attack with this build, and you can if you want, you can swap up to it at any point in time if you'd like to, but even though we're not doing that, just by switching to this gun, for some reason that will trigger your action skill end anointments for the next 10 seconds. So for example, right now, as you can see with this radiation gun, I'm doing radiation damage only, right? Now watch this. If I switch to this gun and then switch back to this gun, you'll notice that now I'm also doing some shock damage, I'm also doing some incendiary damage, and I'm also doing my radiation damage, even though our action skill is still not ended yet. So that gives you the capability of outputting massive amounts of damage, more than you normally would, which you're normally going to put out a lot of damage anyhow, even without the action skill end stuff, but allows you to do that and also still utilize your actual action skill of gamma burst at the same time. So lots of damage can be had by using this. That's basically the first and most obvious trick. The next trick would be that you can also do a fake gamma burst with flak. Now I know that sounds funky, but anybody that's ever played as Amara knows about fake grasping. It's basically where you pretend like you're going to do your action skill, but instead you just like look at the ground and you hit your action skill button, or you look up at the sky and you hit your action skill button. Anything other than looking at an actual enemy and then hitting your action skill, that's what we're talking about with that. Anytime your action skill goes down, if you land some crits with this build, you will proc head count, and by having this skill active, you're going to be able to get your action skill back faster. All right, and then I'm going to go ahead and show you. So without switching to the Butcher, as you can see right now, we're getting just radiation damage. All right, now check this out. I fake and miss my gamma burst up in the air, and now I've got those action skill and anointments again. And if your pet goes into a fight for its life over here, just summon your gamma burst. That brings your pet back to life, and that is going to distract all the enemies because we're using the Red Fang class mod. And let me show you that here. So the Red Fang class mod, whenever you have Gamma Burst active, your pet taunts all enemies, and it does a really, really good job of it too. So a lot of times I can just kind of hang out and just watch this go down without taking any damage because they're just so like, enamored by my pet that I don't even have to do anything. It's just a really good build. Like that's always been one of the main problems for flak is just general survivability in my opinion. So with this build, you negate that problem, because most of the time enemies are going to be like really focused on the gamma burst pet, and you don't have to worry too much about staying alive. You just have to focus on murdering people, and that works out really well. All right, so let's go over the gear real quick, and I'll have timestamps down in the description below so you guys can just click on the timestamp and go to specific things that you want to look for. Up first, the most important piece of gear right now for my build, well actually there's a couple really good important pieces, but the light show, this thing is amazing. So with this build, I am giving you the best of the best stuff. There's actually going to be a link down in the description where you can just take the build as I had it when I finished the playthrough if you want to just have that version. This version of the build is going to have all the better items that you can have for this build, but it also includes some of the other things that I got along the way as well. So we got this radiation light show, and this one, while Gamma Burst is active, you get a 115% bonus radiation damage. We got the Butcher, which we explained a moment ago. You swap to that, and as soon as you swap to it, that's what starts the 10-second countdown for your action skill and anointment. So swap to that, hold it for just a half second, then switch to whatever you want to apply the action skill and stuff to. Got another light show in Shock. I actually have light shows in Corrosive, Fire, and then we've got this one. I'll show you this one here later on. This one is kind of funny. Then we also have the Reflux. The Reflux is a very, very powerful tool in this kit, especially for this takedown. So we'll swap to this, we'll swap over to this. As you can see, we're going to have our action skill and anointments on this thing, and this is great for mobbing if you have a large number of enemies on the screen. We've got a level 60 Wedding Invitation with Gamma Burst active, 115% radiation damage. This thing is an absolute beast of a sniper. A lot of fun to play around with. Got a complex route with consecutive hits. Got a proprietary license with Gamma Burst. Up next, we got a Sandhawk. This one I actually got during the playthrough. Got another Reflux. This one is actually, this one right here is the cash infused version. Gamma Burst active. The other one that we were using is this one, the next two mags, bonus shock damage. It's very good for the takedown. We also have an EMP5. This is included with the build in case you want to run fast. What you can do is, if you want to get all the way across the map really quick, switch to the Friendbot class mod, switch to the Snowdrift Safeguard. You can also switch to the Stopgap to increase your survivability during this, and then you want to switch your pet to the Speed Jabber, the one that has movement speed, which would be the Gunslinger Jabber. So now check this out. So now I can fake grasp the sky. I'm immune. I have invincibility, and then we're also speeding through maps. So this is great in case you need to cross a lot of ground really quick. You swap to that EMP5, swap to the Friendbot, you switch your pet, and all of a sudden you're going crazy fast. So just a cool little thing that you can do there with that. Tell you what, let's go ahead and show you this real quick. This light show has action skill active, constantly triggered novas that do 25,000 damage. Now, if you watched my playthrough, then you probably saw me kill Trot with this thing. Basically, you look up at the sky, you spam your action skill, and you're going to do non-stop novas. But it's really funny. It's something you can do to just mess around. We also got a Molten Monarch. This one has Gamma Burst, 115% radiation damage. The reason I went with the fire one and I didn't throw in all the other ones is because you can get all the other elements just by doing your action skill and anointments. So we could have radiation, we could have corrosive, we could have shock, all that stuff. All right, otherwise we got the pestilence. This thing, in case you have never seen the video by Garwood, there is a way that you can use the pestilence with with emote canceling to fly across maps. I'm not going to cover that in this because I haven't learned how to do it myself, but it's included with this build in case you want to mess around with that. Also, we got a face puncher. The face puncher is so good right now. A hyper focus. Hyper focus is one of the most underrated SMGs in the game right now. This one we got during our playthrough, so I just went ahead and kept it with the build. We got the flipper. This one has consecutive hits. The flipper is very, very good right now. This one comes in incendiary and corrosive on this build. This is a very, very strong SMG. Got a Krakatoa in case you want to do some burst fire damage. Got the Rowan's Call. This one is a fun gun. A lot of people don't seem to know how good the Rowan's Call is. And as you can see, it can absolutely shred. This guy's armored, and this is shock. So it kind of gives you an idea of just how good this is. We have 3 different launchers. I've got a couple of different back burners that I got while playing through. And then I've got a Plague Bearer here. This one has splash damage. We've also got a Lob included with this. And then we have a low-level Ruby's Wrath, which when combined with Transformer allows you to basically do like rocket jumping from Borderlands 2, essentially. So you can jump up onto ledges you normally couldn't get to, for example. All right, so that sums up the gear fairly well. Let's go ahead and take a look at the build. The most important thing in this build is making sure that you hit Megabore. This gives you critical hit chance. And the reason this is so important is because we're going to use that in conjunction with Holy Crit as our very hard Mayhem modifier to do lots of critical hit damage. You don't have to have Holy Crit. If you watch my playthrough, I did Mayhem with Buddy System on, because then when people being like, oh, you've just got Holy Crit on to make it too easy. But now that I've got the build done, I can tell you guys that Holy Crit is the way to go. I just use Buddy System just so people wouldn't complain. That's basically all there was to that. All right, so we got 5 out of 5 in Interplanetary Stalker, 3 out of 5 in Second Intention, and only 2 out of 3 in Leave No Trace. And I know a lot of people would be like, wait a second, K6, why wouldn't you put more points in this to get your ammo back? Well, to be frank with you, we don't need any more than 2 points in this. We'd probably be fine with just a single point in it but I had a point to spare, so I went ahead and put 2 in there. Same thing with head count. I've only put a single point in here. You are going to reduce your cooldown by 10%. If I put more in it, then it could be 20% or 30%, but we're going to hit critical hits so often, and we're going to have that chance so often that it's going to just happen. You don't even need to max this thing out. If you end up having extra points that you don't want to spend in something else, then sure, go for it. But we also put points into Hunter's Eye because that gives us really good bonuses versus all the different enemy types. We've got 3 out of 3 in big game, 3 out of 3 in most dangerous game. These are both hunter skills. Those are going to get boosted by a lot of other things in the skill tree. We got Galactic Shadow, so you get increased critical hit damage just by default, and enemies are less likely to attack you. So you combine that with the Red Fang, and all of a sudden most enemies on the map are just going to completely ignore you at all times. We also have some points in Grim Harvest for gun damage and action skill damage, and of course Megavore. We are using the Scorcher Spider Ant because this is the most powerful pet in the game. And then let's go ahead and go into the green tree. Now the cool thing about this build is a hybrid build. At any time, if you want to switch over to fadeaway, you can do that. And then I would recommend going Gorillas in the Mist and Until You're Dead, but you can also use Not My Circus. That's another very good taunt with the pet to distract enemies kind of skill. But for the most part, I'm going to keep it locked in on Gamma Burst. We got 5 out of 5 in Self-Repairing System, 5 out of 5 in Furious Attack. And the only reason I put points into Self-Repairing System, well, I mean, it's an okay skill, but we needed to get 10 points spent up here so that we could get Lick the Wounds. We have a single point in Eager to Impress and then 1 point on it with our class mod, but Lick the Wounds allows your pet to revive you. Then we got Turn, Tail, and Run. Now this one, if you're standing still, you get increased gun damage by 25%. You also get increased fire rate while standing still. And when you move and you're running away from enemies, you get 17.4% damage reduction, and you get 0.9% of max health per second regen to you. So a nice little way to keep you alive and well, and also give you extra gun damage. That allows you to, again, be able to go down to this far in the green tree with your skills, and also gives you access to both the jabbers, which again, for that movement speed jabber, is really nice. All right, now the main tree for this build, the Gamma Burst tree. We're actually using Gamma Burst. We got 3 out of 3 in Persistence Hunter, which is just gun damage and action skill duration. And action skill duration is very crucial here. You want to have Gamma Burst up as much as possible, because while Gamma Burst is up, you are distracting enemies with your pet with Red Fang. So those two work hand in hand. We got points in Ferocity. We got 2 points in Ferocity so that we can get down to this level. You've got 5 out of 5 in Frenzy. This one gives you up to 10 stacks of Frenzy, and that can amount to being 40% more damage while your stacks are built up. And you get those stacks by your pet doing damage. And with the Scorcher Spider Ant, you're going to do a lot of damage. So it works hand in hand with that. You do need to make sure that your class mod has at least 1 point in He Bites. Whenever your pet takes damage, there's a chance that it reflects that damage back at enemies. That helps you to stack up your stacks of Frenzy. You got 2 points in Who Rescued Who. The only reason for this is so we can get down the tree further. So we got 3 out of 3 in Hive Mind. So whenever you take damage, there's a chance that percentage of the damage is transferred to your pet instead. And don't worry about your pet. Your pet's going to be fine. Your pet stays alive very well. And then we got a couple points in Barbaric Yawp. Increases the pet bonuses for several things. And pet bonuses would be like for the Scorcher Spider Ant. So instead of just the 1.8% max health per second, you're going to get that plus additional 80% on that, as well as with the elemental damage as well. So nice bonuses on that. In terms of shields, we got obviously a couple different transformers to choose from. Got a couple of different stop gaps. This one has radiation damage on action skill in. This one, anytime you trigger your action skill start, and we kind of did this a moment ago when we switched over to EMP5, but whenever you trigger your action skill start, it's going to allow you to be invincible for 5 seconds. So let's get that going again here. All right, so boom, now I'm invincible for 5 seconds. As you can see, nothing's going to hurt me. I can stand right here beside this thing, and then when 5 seconds ends, I can trigger my action skill again, be invincible for 5 seconds once again, etc., etc. And you can do that in perpetuity, but I feel that's pretty cheesy, more so than all the other stuff that we're doing. So I usually don't mess with that, but it's there in case you want to do something with that. In terms of our other shields, we've got a red suit. So if you want to use the Pestilence and not apply any kind of radiation to yourself. Boom, there you go. We got the Brawler Award. In case you want to use the Face Puncher and do a bunch of melee damage, you can throw this thing on. You're going to need your shield to be stripped in order to do maximum damage though, so keep that in mind. Then we got this Reflecting Rico. This one gives you 50% chance to reflect bullets while you are shielded, 80% chance to reflect bullets while you're not shielded, but then it has an additional 15% chance to reflect projectiles while shielded. So essentially, while your shield is up, you have a 65% chance to reflect bullets. And then if your shield breaks, you have 80% chance then to reflect bullets. So this is a high survivability shield. In case you want to mess around with that, it's included with this. In terms of the grenades, we are mostly going to use the Mitosis Hunter Seeker. This one is anointed for action skill and shock damage. I've also got the Mervtacular Hex. This thing, we got lucky and found that. So both of these we found toward the end of the playthrough. So very lucky finds on both of those. I've also included a Radiation Anointed Mitosis Hunter Seeker, a Light Speed Grenade, which will give you the Cryo bonus on your action skill end, and a Surge, which will give you Corrosive bonus on your action skill end. In terms of the artifacts, we've got Atom Bomb Rocket Boots. This one maximizes your radiation damage. So if you're doing the red suit and the pestilence, you can throw this thing on and maximize that radiation, or you can even use it with the light show that we got up there. But the Pearl of Ineffable Knowledge is so good, it's hard to want to ever switch that. Additionally though, if you do want to do any kind of melee stuff, again with the Face Puncher, you can throw in the White Elephant. This one's also a Cut Purse White Elephant. So if you switch to this, say you just need ammo for your pistol, for example, you can switch to this thing and then just run up to an enemy and melee them, and then you'd be able to get your ammo for that weapon type that you're holding. We also have a Snowdrift Safeguard. If you're not familiar with the Safeguard, when you slam, you can see like that effect around the edges of my screen. That is a bubble that will give you reduced damage by 57% for 5 seconds. This one also gives you incendiary damage and it regenerates 296 health per second. So this is a good one for like running through maps. There's also a Snowdrift Deathless on this build. That's going to put your health at 1 and increase your shield by 100%. That would be good if you're doing any kind of like URAD stuff. When you're under 50% health, you do 150% extra damage, but we're not really going to do that with this build, but it's included in case you do want to mess around with that. In terms of the class mods, 90% of the time you're going to want to have the Red Fang on. The only times you're going to want to switch is you could do Bounty Hunter for like mini bosses, Stack Bot for like tougher bosses, the Friend Bot again for running through maps. Rack Commander is on here in case you decide that you want to switch to a Rack Attack build. Rack Attack's good in case you want to just like keep your action skill and stuff going without abusing the Butcher trick that I showed you guys there. So that's that for the skill tree. That's that for the gear. That's pretty straightforward, I feel like. Guardian rank wise, these are the modifiers that I like to use for Mayhem mode. I like Speed Demon, so when I get kills I go fast. I like Healy Avenger. When you kill enemies, they have a chance to release a heart, which can then like fly around and like heal their teammates. But generally that heart sits there for like 2-3 seconds, so you can just pop it real quick. It's easy to take care of. Laser Flare I don't like, but I rolled these other 3 things and I was like, all right, I'll settle for Laser Flare. I don't like it, but you can, if you hit an enemy and you trigger a Laser Flare, you can shoot the Laser Flare with the reflux and chain damage to all the other enemies nearby too. That's a good way to do a lot of damage as well. And then Holy Crit. So now Holy Crit is one that you don't want to use generally for most characters, unless you're just doing like mobbing, because for bosses it's not the greatest. But on Flak, since we're using Megavore and you have a chance that any of your hits on an enemy, no matter where you hit them at, can be a critical, that means you're going to get an extra 25% damage on those critical hits. But your other hits are going to be reduced by 50%, but you're going to hit so many crits, it's not going to matter about the reduced ones. So just keep that in mind. You can obviously re-roll those at any time and go with ones that feel better to you, but those are the ones that I like to use. All right, so in terms of what this build can do, obviously you can solo all the takedowns. I did that on stream during this playthrough. You can mob really, really well, as you've been seeing me do here for like the last few minutes. Survivability is off the charts as long as you're using the Red Fang class mod. Most of the time, like I said, enemies don't even, they don't even act like you're there most of the time, so that's pretty cool. Again, you can abuse the action skill in stuff by swapping to that and then switching back, so you're going to do even more damage than you normally would. But yeah, man, this build is just a lot of fun in every way, shape, and form. It's probably one of the more fun playthroughs I've had in a while too. If you haven't already, make sure you go check out the playthrough. It's only a 9-episode playthrough, so you can watch the whole thing in a matter of a few hours or a couple of hours. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, then please make sure you hit the like button, hit subscribe, tap the bell icon to be notified when I post a new video. Check out my other build guides via the link at the end of this video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Y'all have a great day.